Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the greatest recordings ever. And today we're talking about one of the most popular of all nationalistic tone poem thingies, Sibelius's Finlandia. I mean, Finlandia, everyone knows Finlandia. It was like the soundtrack to one of the Die Hard movies. I mean, the opening with its menacing brass chords. See, I have a cold, so I do that particularly well. The rasp gets in there. And then it's got that, wonderful, wonderful, heroic, dum ba da da dum bum 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 ba da da dum bum bum bum. But oh, it's wonderful. And the big tune. This is my homeland. This is my native Finland, or whatever it is. I don't know. It's a patriotic song that became a Christian hymn. Actually, several, like 4 or 5 of them. And the national anthem of Biafra back when that was a country. And it was like, oh, everyone's used it. So it's an incredibly popular thing, given that it only lasts like 8 or 9 minutes most of the time. I mean, it's not that long. Like most Sibelius works, it's rather concise. And it has an incredibly interesting history. It began life as a piece called Finland Awakes. Sort of, kind of, but it was part of something called the Press Celebrations music, composed in 1899, which is a series of historical tableaux vivants, which is, where you make a scene of something and have people posing like this, and then you play music that represents the scene. And this was a covert protest against Russian censorship, because Finland was, at that point, under the rule of the Russian czars and not happy about it. And then it sort of took on a life of its own. The original version of it was supposed to represent the modernization of Finland and the advent of the railroad. Yes, it's train music, believe it or not, like choo-choo trains. But then it, became its own thing, and it had to be performed under various names to avoid censorship. It's really kind of unbelievable how this thing got around. And Sibelius arranged it a billion ways. There's the piano version, there's the choral version, there's the underwater version, there's the outer space version. I mean, there's just a bazillion Finlandia versions. And if you have the BIS Complete Sibelius edition, you get to hear all 30 trillion Sibelius of Finlandia things. There's just like, if it's Wednesday, it must be time for Finlandia. Anyway, it's a great piece. It deserves every bit of its popularity. It's wonderfully written. It gets the job done with no fuss and no bother. It's remarkably heroic and powerful, but completely unpretentious. There's no bombast in it at all, which is really kind of marvelous. And that craggy opening is so powerful and wonderful. And it ends with one of Sibelius's typical amen kind of endings, one of those, sort of chorale type, almost liturgical endings that he often turned to. So, what is the best recording ever? Or one of them. That's not to say that there haven't been about, 50 to 100 excellent versions of Finlandia. I mean, it's not, everybody does it. So let's put it that way. And a lot of people do it really well. But one of the really greatest recordings ever of anything is this one. Herbert von Karajan with the Berlin Philharmonic. And I chose this partly because it's one of the greatest recordings ever, and partly because I get to hold up this box, which is one of the early efforts at a complete Karajan edition. This was on EMI. It was 2008, looks like. It says it came out. It's the complete EMI recordings, 1946 to 1984. And this had there were 2 of these boxes. One did operas and one did everything else, orchestral and other music. So somewhere buried in this ridiculous and somewhat random assortment of stuff, 88 CDs worth, is an 8-minute recording of Finlandia. Yes, it's in here. But what makes this one special? Well, Karajan was known for his incredible richness of color and smoothness and luscious strings and most things subordinate to that. But he made a few recordings where he really turned the orchestra loose, particularly the brass section. And this is one of those. It has the most vicious, the most menacing, the most raspy. I mean, they sound like me with a cold brass section at the opening. I mean, they just tear into it with incredible power and primal rawness. I mean, you'd never know it's Karajan and the Berlin Philharmonic until, of course, the strings come in with this gorgeous, rich, dense, velvety tone. Oh, it's just marvelous. Absolutely marvelous. I mean, it's extraordinary and so atypical of the sound that Karajan usually got. But he could do it when the music demanded it, because that's what great artists do. I mean, he had his predilections, and he often liked to give music the treatment, as if he was greater than the music. But sometimes he realized everything that the music asked of him in a humble but nonetheless extraordinarily compelling way. And this Finlandia is one of those. So it's the Karajan EMI Berlin recording. It's all, you can get it. It's available as a single disc, and you can download it or stream it. But you really should hear it, because it's unquestionably one of the greatest recordings ever. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.